There we go. And Bob, thank you so much for your time today and your willingness to share your incredible wisdom, insight, and experience with us.
No, my pleasure. That's very kind of you, Linda. And it's great to be with all of you today. Thank you for joining.
Oh, it's our thrill, Bob. So you and John David Mann really coined the term the go-giver, which is now part of our lexicon. Everyone has heard the term the go-giver. So can you offer us a definition of that concept and really what you and John David were thinking about as you coined the term the go-giver?
Yeah, it's actually very simple. It's simply it's understanding that shifting your focus, and I think this is really where it all begins. Shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others. Understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it is the most financially profitable way as well. And not for any kind of woo-woo, way out there, magical, mystical type reasons. Oh, just give and good things. No, not at all. It's actually much more rational, much more logical than that. It really it comes down to when you're that person who can take the focus off yourself and place it on serving others, discovering their needs, their wants, their desires. When you make it not about you, but about helping others to overcome and solve their challenges and problems. When you make it not about yourself, but instead about helping move others closer to happiness, people feel good about you. They feel great about you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to do business with you. And you know what, Linda? They want to tell the world about you. They want to become what one of the characters in the story, Gus, called your personal walking ambassador. So that's really the entire premise of the Go Giver.
I love that, Bob. It's such a simple concept, but it's so incredibly powerful. And you talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, but what about those that may not be entrepreneurs, or maybe they have a full-time C-suite position that they feel great fulfillment with. They're really happy in their C-suite position, leading a maybe a multinational for-profit or nonprofit business. But how does the message of the go giver still apply to those people that may not be business owners, business founders, or even business investors?
Sure. Well, the same basic law works across the board. So, for example, let's take it first the salesperson or entrepreneur, and then go to the more to the intrapreneur. Okay, so the entrepreneur understands that he or she has one real job more than anything else, and that is to please another person. Okay, to give a customer or client what they want in exchange, of course, for financial consideration. Okay, but that's who their aim is. So when I used to speak at sales conventions, I could be in a room of thousands of salespeople, and I would start out by saying one thing: nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. Right? No one's going to buy from you because you have a sales goal, you need the money. No one's going to buy from you just because you're a really nice person. They're going to buy from you because they believe that ultimately they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. Okay. Again, your job was to find a way to make your customer's life better. That's an entrepreneur. Now, as an intrapreneur, it simply means that you're doing the same thing only within another organization. Okay, so you're an entrepreneur working within an organization, an intrapreneur. You still have a customer that you need to please. Only this customer is the people you lead, the people who are your peers, the people who are your suppliers, the people who are your customers, the people who are in another silo, right? The person who is, you're still pleasing, you're still having to please others. In other words, and when I say pleasing, I mean bringing value to another human being. Okay. And so that's really what it's all about. And again, this is how a free market environment works, because remember, no one's forced to buy from you. No one's forced to work within your organization. So the way you cause this to happen is you focus not on yourself, you focus on providing value to others. Now, as we go through and explain some of the laws, I want to make the point because I've talked about, pleasing others, doing this does not mean you're self-sacrificial. It doesn't mean you're doing something at your own expense. No, it simply means you're tapping into and tuning into human nature. And human nature says that other person, in order for them to do a thing, they need to have a reason to do so. And it's your job to find out what that reason is. Dale Carnegie in his classic How to Win Friends and Influence People, what I thought was his underlying premise of that classic book was one sentence, and that's where he said, ultimately, people do things for their reasons, not our reasons. So our job
That's
is
so
to
right.
genuinely and authentically find their reasons and help them carry those forth.
Exactly. And it's funny because often we make our reasons the reason why someone should do business with us, should work with
Right.
us, should choose us. We make our unique value proposition the reason why they should choose us. But in fact, oftentimes they're solving for a problem that we may not even recognize or
Ah,
know about.
ah,
And it's really listening to the customer first to say, what are you trying to solve for? And what is keeping you up at night? And how can I be of service? And what is it that you really need from this relationship or this service or this product? How are you going to be using this? What are you preparing for? What's the transformation you're looking for? It feels like that is what's missing in many of the recipes that I see among entrepreneurs. They say, but I've served 1,000 people, but they get 8 hours of one-on-one time, but I have these degrees and these certifications. So of course they should choose me. But that's our reason. That's not their reason. So I think that's just a brilliant, brilliant reminder of being customer focused at all times. What is the problem that we're helping them solve? Now, Bob, I think you've done such a beautiful job explaining the premise of the book itself, but I'd love for you to give a quick review of the 5 laws that you and John share in the book.
sure. And if it's okay, we'll go through this from the entrepreneur's point of view, if that's okay.
Yes.
Just to keep it quick, so that we don't have to go to the leaders or the entrepreneurs, because I think most of the people here are probably entrepreneurs. I'm thinking, is that true or not?
Yes, just about everyone that I know of on the call is a
Okay.
entrepreneur.
So let's do that. So the first one is the law of value. The law of value says your true worth, in the business sense, of course, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, this sounds a little counterintuitive, maybe even counterproductive when you first hear it. Give more in value than I take in payment. That sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy. So we simply have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea that brings so much worth or value to this person that they will willingly and happily exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. A very quick example would be the accountant that you hire to do your taxes. She charges you, and we're just going to name a round figure, $1,000. That's her fee, literally her price, $1,000. But what value does she give you in return? Well, through her years of learning the business, her focus on you and your business, as you were saying earlier, and determining what you're looking to accomplish, she's able to save you $5,000 in taxes. She also saves you countless hours of time, and she provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly, right? So she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 fee or price. She literally gave you more in value than she took in payment. So you feel great about it, while she also made a very healthy profit because it was worth it to her to exchange her time, her energy, her knowledge, her wisdom, her help for this $1,000 fee. So, in any free market based exchange, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one's forced to do business with anyone else. People do it on their own of their own volition. In any free market based exchange, there should always be at least two profits. The buyer profits and the seller profits, the customer and the entrepreneur both profit because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. Okay, that's the very basic of the law of value. Law number two is the law of compensation. This says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So, where law number one says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number two tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. So our accountant in the first example did a great job of giving more in value than she took in payment. If you're her customer, her client, you feel great about her, would probably do business with her again, and will tell others about her. Well, her other clients feel the same way. So our accountant is very quickly amassing what we call an army of personal walking ambassadors. And as she continues to add such exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, her income will continue to grow and grow. So we could say that law number one, the law of value and the law of compensation would be exceptional value plus significant reach equals very high compensation. Law number three, the law of influence, says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Again, not in a way that you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self sacrificial in any way, shape, or form. No, it's simply understanding, as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors. The golden rule of business is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus. Or as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, it's making your win all about the other person's win. Law number four is the law of authenticity. The law of authenticity says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. In this part of the story, Deborah, who was the mentor in that part, she shared a very powerful lesson. And that is all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are all very, very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you, right? They feel comfortable with you. They feel safe with you. And why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting. So, it's interesting. I think the word authenticity in the age of social media has almost been hijacked to mean, oh, just say or do whatever you want. There's no boundaries. Use whatever just right. I don't think that's true at all. It's not just saying whatever comes to your mind. It's not having no that would be like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot. And if I were to act any differently, that wouldn't be authentic of me. That's baloney. What it means is this person has an authentic problem
Yes.
that they need to authentically work on in order to become a better, higher, more effective, authentic version of themselves. So, no, when we say authentic, what we mean is this: acting congruently with your values. And as long as you're doing that, you're being authentic. And that's a powerful way to live life. It's a powerful way to do business. And then law number five, the law of receptivity, kind of brings it home. This says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. This is nothing more than understanding that, yeah, you breathe out, you also have to breathe in. It's not one or the other, it's both. You breathe out carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen. You breathe out, which is giving, you breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. The challenge is that the world around us does not give us that message. The world around us gives us tons of horrible, negative, anti-prosperity messages. And it can get into your head, and it can really just take the the positivity right out of you. It can cause you to sabotage yourself. It can cause you to push away your success, which is a big reason why. And while we covered some of that in the Go Giver in the story, we did it on a very surface level. There are people who I suggest following that do a magnificent job of actually teaching prosperity mindset. People like Randy Gage, people like Sharon Lechter, people like David Nagel, the late Bob Proctor, people like Ellen Rogan out of Chicago, uh, people like Lisa Leisa Peterson, people. There's Derek Kinney. There's just a lot of great, and what they do is if you read their blogs, if you watch their videos, if you listen to their 99.9% of what they're talking about is just getting past those emotional blocks and getting those horrible anti-prosperity messages that the world around us constantly feeds us, getting past those. Because the fact is, if you're providing value to the lives of many people, if you're placing their interests first and coming at it from your authentic core, you have every right to receive, and receive prosperously, receive in abundance. And that's basically the five laws, kind of in a nutshell, Reader's Digest version.
I love that. That was just brilliant. And for all of you that are following chat, I tried to capture them as well as I could in chat. So be sure that you're checking that out. And you are welcome to download the chat before you leave, of course. So let me go back to value with you for just a second, Bob. How does a person add value to others without costing too much money, especially in such a competitive economic environment? A lot of people here, lead with value, give more than you expect in return, provide more exceptional value than you're charging for. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, that might incent some sort of like emotional reaction, like, I can't afford to do that. I don't know what you're talking about. How can I, in my business, give away more value than I'm charging for? How can I lead with value? So can you speak to that?
Sure. First, it's very important to understand that it's not a matter of giving more than you get or receive. It's a matter of giving and receiving in different ways, each of which is more valuable to the other party. For example, with the accountant, okay, she saved you well over $5,000, well over. She received $1,000. Did she lose out? No, because it didn't cost her $1,000 to do or more to do the work for you. It's like the restaurant in the story, Iafrate's Italian Cafe, a very swanky restaurant. You go there at night, it's probably going to cost a couple of $100, for a meal, right? But when you go there, you're greeted by the maitre d' who or by the host who hold open the door for you, and they walk you over to Sal, the maitre d' who escorts you over to the table where you're greeted by the wait staff who make you feel so welcome. And throughout the meal, while they're serving you, they have a way of knowing when to engage you and when to leave you alone. And the presentation of the food's magnificent. It tastes wonderful. The ambiance is fantastic. When you leave, you're escorted out. It may have cost a couple of $100 value-wise, cost-wise, but you feel like $1 million, right? Iafrate is giving you much more in value than he takes in payment. But did the meal cost him $200? No, the meal probably cost him, between the cost of goods sold, the staff, the operations, everything, probably cost him $30, right? So it's a matter of giving value in a way that doesn't take away from you, but it adds exceptionally to the life of the other person, the other individual.
I love that. Bob, I got to tell you, that is absolutely the principle of leadHERship Global. We absolutely give more value than we charge for membership, to the tune of about 10 to 20 to 1.
And that's
So anywhere from 10 to 1 to 20 to 1 value And we absolutely start by listening to every single member about what's important to them. How do they define
Uh,
success? What
uh,
are they trying to achieve? And then we design a strategic review and membership roadmap based on what's important to them. So now you can see that we are falling in line with all of your principles and practices and your
I love
five
that.
laws. It's so amazing to be able to hear it specifically from you, the author of this seminal book that has changed the lives of so many. And I have to ask, before you wrote the book, was there one piece of advice that you received before you even knew anything about being a go-giver, that was really a difference maker for you, Bob?
So it's a wonderful question, and I would answer it two ways. One is I was very fortunate to be raised by two magnificent human beings, my mom and dad, who I think just instilled that entire just way of being. And I know John David Mann, my co-author, he said it was the same with his parents. So we were both very, very fortunate in that way. Um, One of the great lessons that I learned, though, was I'd been in sales for a couple of years, and I was with a new company. They weren't new, but I mean, I was new with them, and I started out in a sales slump, and really was having trouble getting out of it. And I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get out of it. And as you know, right, we talked about nobody's going to buy from me because I'm wanting to get out of a slump, right? So I was going about it totally the wrong way. And there was an older guy at the company. He wasn't even in the sales department. I think he was an engineer or something, and he in another part of the company. He retired soon after. He was one of these guys who he didn't say a lot, and I think we've all known these kind of people. He didn't say a lot, but whenever he did say something, it was usually profound. So he said to me one day, because I think he saw me being down on myself, and he saw that I had potential. And he said, Berg, can I give you some advice? And I said, yeah, please do. I need it. And he said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. Your target is serving others. And Linda, what that said to me was that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship's never about the product or service, as important as those are. It's never what it's about. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about that person whose life you're trying to add value to, or we could even maybe more accurately say, it's about that person whose life becomes a little bit better just because you are part of it. And I think that when we approach business, sales, leadership from that foundation, I think we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Love that. That makes so much sense. And, Bob, in your book, you actually have a line that raised quite a few eyebrows all about that. It's where you and John wrote, does it make money? Is not a bad question. It's a great question. It's just a bad first question.
Right.
So that's very much aligned with what you just spoke about, which is the best question maybe to begin with is, how can I serve more people with more value that creates a real impact in their lives, and money will follow? Is that what
Yeah.
you meant by that statement?
It is because in the conversation and early in the book, Joe, who was who was the protege, was talking with Pindar, the main mentor, and he was talking about making a killing with this coffee, Rachel's coffee, which was so great. And Pindar said, well, I want to kind of start there to make sure we're pointing in the same direction, because I talked about serving a lot of people with that coffee, and you talked about making a killing. And Joe said, well, what do you mean? Are you saying that making asking if something will make money is a bad question? Pindar said, no, absolutely not. Asking if something will make money is a great question. Just as you said, it's just a bad first question. Joe can't understand, how could this be? And Pindar said, and again, this goes back to people aren't buying for our reasons, they're buying for their reasons. So the first question, so if you ask first, will it make money? You're putting the cart before the horse. First, you have to ask, will it serve? Or you could even say, is there a market for it? Or is there a market I'm willing to create for it? If it's an idea that, whatever it happens to be, and that's something only you can answer. But first, is there a market for it? Will people purchase this? Okay. Will it serve them? Now, if the answer is yes, now you've got to ask, will it make money? Because on the other side of things, everybody can want to buy it, but if you're losing money on every sale, well, that also doesn't make sense. You've just got a very, very expensive hobby. So
Yeah.
asking if it will make money is very important question. Just the wrong first question to ask.
I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. Well, I want to be sure that we're giving everyone in the room here an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to stop our recording and I'm going to invite all of you to come off mute and ask Bob anything that you may be thinking about.